Hello, everyone, and welcome to Down Bad, the self-help podcast where I, Jodi Johnson, talk about everything mental health related, from the challenges that we face to the celebrations that take place. On the show, I use my vulnerability in hopes that the more we as humans talk, share, and work together, the more we make mental health care accessible and acceptable for every single human being out there. This journey is yours and no one else's. Not your mom's, your dad's, your siblings, your significant others, your neighbors, no one's. It's yours every single step of the way. So thanks for being here and staying true to yourself, even in times of uncertainty and discomfort. New episodes release every Thursday.
Welcome back, everyone, or welcome if you're a first-time listener. I'm the host, Jodi Johnson, and I'm so glad that you guys are here with me today. In this episode, we're going to take a deep dive into my first ever marathon experience, the Philadelphia Marathon, where I not only ran for personal growth, but I was also able to run to support an amazing nonprofit that's raising awareness for mental health, especially among young adults. This episode, I will warn you, is going to be less structured than my most recent ones, but in it, I do want to actually acknowledge the importance of mental health and how running the marathon was a physical, emotional, and spiritual challenge for me. I also want to shout out the nonprofit that I ran for, Active Minds, and how they actually promote health awareness. And to finally share with you guys what I'm plotting for the future. So if you're wondering what inspired me to run the Philly Marathon in particular, well, if you know me, then you might know that for the last 2 years, I've really been itching to get into more endurance sports. So I've been really itching to run a marathon as a personal accomplishment, as a staple to myself that I'm resilient and can overcome any challenge in my life, and to express to other people that a marathon represents life. It's a journey. And over the summer in July, my grandmother passed away, and she was my mother figure, so it completely shook up my world. You know, I had just graduated college. I was getting ready to transition into my first year of grad school, so I kind of understood afterwards that I knew that I was going to need myself more than ever because my pick-me-up person was no longer with us anymore. So in these last few weeks and these last few months leading up to the race, it's really given me a huge sense of purpose to be able to share my emotional, physical, and spiritual health journey with everybody who cares. And I was able to share this journey openly because I do want to be able to foster vulnerability. I didn't just decide to run the Philadelphia Marathon. I decided to run for a cause, for something that means something so special to me. So when I saw this email towards the end of the summer from Active Minds, seeing if I would be interested in what they called making your miles matter, I was on board immediately. I knew that this was something that I wanted to do, but there's more talk on Active Minds to come later in this episode. Right now, what I want to do with you guys is walk you through the training process. I want to dive into both the highs and lows of my experience leading up to the marathon. I spent all summer doing, what I've done for the last 6 summers, which is lifeguarding, as well as competing in the surf rescue competitions that happen throughout the summer, to stay in shape for cross country, as well as attend lifeguard nationals, which happened this year in San Padre Island, Texas. So I was able to do that at the beginning of August. And at the end of August, cross country began. And I knew that this was going to serve as my base training for the marathon because I knew that it was going to be really, really difficult to juggle both cross-country training and marathon training. So I mostly focused on cross-country because it was my last cross-country season. I wanted to have fun and actually enjoy being present in cross-country. So all fall, I felt physically healthy and really, really fast, but mentally I knew that I was struggling with isolation, loneliness, anxiety, grief, you name it. I ended up finishing 9th overall in the conference in the 8K. If I would have hit my personal best from last year, I would have won the conference, but that's besides the point. I gave it my all, and that's what mattered. I had a lot of fun during my last cross-country season. But at this point in the journey, we're around early November. So I really only had 3 weeks left to prep for the actual race, Philadelphia Marathon. and everything was going really, really well. I felt really, really good, but shit sort of started to hit the fan after my last long run. So about 2 weeks prior to racing, I set out on my last long run, a 3-hour run, 21 and a half miles. This was my longest run ever. And, my pace was great. My breathing was great. I felt great. But my tendonitis flaring up in my left knee and my right hip afterwards, that was not such a great feeling, because that's something that pushed me back physically, because I wasn't able to really walk well in the days after that run. And it did freak me out a little bit. So at this point in my physical training, I realized that my mental training was beginning to be, just as important. And at this point, I could have easily given up. I could have said that there's no way that I'll be able to hit that goal of sub 3:30. I could have even went more extreme than that and said, there's no way that I can finish this marathon with the state that my leg is in. But instead, I didn't freak out. I planned out the next 2 weeks and what I was going to do. I decided that I was going to cross-train the rest of my workouts on the stationary bike, which is what I did. I went to the athletic training room to get rehab and do exercises, strengthening exercises for the surrounding muscles and for my knee tendons. I showed myself patience, and I was kind to myself during this time. I recharged myself socially so that I wasn't, isolated and struggling from the effects of isolation and loneliness. I made sure that I was eating right, putting the right things into my body and getting quality sleep, because I knew that these things were going to positively affect, how my knee was feeling. And physically, my work felt complete. I did the hard shit already. My build for the marathon was done. There was no hard workouts that I really needed to do. I was fine with being on the stationary bike for the remainder of my time leading up to the race. But mentally, I still had to go to work in the lab. The work there still continued. But I was proud of myself, and I trusted my training. The only thing that was really left to do was to just stick to the plan that I had. So if you guys didn't already pick up on it, I'm a goal-oriented person. So off the bat, I set a goal for a sub 3:30 marathon. I also had an initial goal of raising $720 to represent the over 720,000 people that die by suicide every single year. Was that a realistic goal? Well, in terms of running, my personal best in the 8K is 27:37, and for the 10K, it's 36:45. These numbers are way above average numbers, but they're by no means professional or elite standards. Even with that being said, I believed that I was more than capable of holding an 8-minute mile for 42 kilometers. What the fuck is a kilometer? I didn't just think that I could break 3:30. I believed it. I internalized it. I said, I'm going to do this. I can do this. But anyways, as we approached Philly Marathon weekend, 2 days prior to my race, so this would be Friday evening, after work, my friend Sam arrived to my apartment around 4 p.m., and then, we hung out for a few hours. Then we eventually headed over to Philadelphia to see our friend Madison, who we went to college with. Sam and Madison, they hadn't seen each other since graduation in 2023. They're both a year ahead of me. But long story short is I got absolutely hammered. I got really drunk. I planned for 2 beers. We had way more than just beer. And I didn't black out or anything, but, I definitely had way more than I anticipated that I was going to have, and I was drunker than I anticipated to be that night. And of course, whenever my lips touch alcohol, they also lust for a cigarette, or sometimes, an entire pack of cigarettes. And I never said that I was perfect. I never said that I wasn't a degenerate. So sorry to disappoint you guys that I got hammered 2 days before my marathon. But anyways, obviously this affected Saturday. I woke up with a nasty headache, but I had no regrets because the night before was so much fun. I hadn't hung out with Sam and Madison in the same place since before graduation, so it was good to be with them, 2 of my closest friends. And, reflecting on the semester, I hadn't really gone out and done anything socially, so it felt really, really good to recharge socially. But anyway, Saturday, I had stayed in bed longer than I had planned to, which threw off my nutrition for the day. So all I really had time to do before heading over into Philly again was eat a Nature Valley bar. That's all I had before noon. But anyways, after that, Sam and I headed over to Center City to the race expo to meet the team over at Active Minds, to pick up my race bib. And, I had to purchase some things before the race in the morning, like gels, gloves, you name it. They got me. After the expo, after I did all those errands, we ended up missing our train out of the city. So, we didn't want to wait another 2 hours for the next train to take us where we needed to go. So I called us an Uber back to my apartment. And the Uber driver that we had was actually so fucking funny. He told us that, like, off the bat, that he was attacked by a turkey a few days prior, and then he showed us a picture of said turkey, and that funniest shit ever. You could tell that the dude was born and raised in Philadelphia, the way that he talked about the Eagles, the Flyers, the people. The man had no filter, so of course him and I got along. But anyways, when we got back to my apartment, I made a large dinner, and it was mainly composed of rice. But I also threw in some chicken and some corn. Not a typical meal that I have before a big race, but, it was a meal that my belly was used to. And it contained a lot of carbs, so I was fine with it. I started packing for what I would need before, during, and after the marathon because I entered Center City by myself that morning. So, I had to be organized and get everything that I would need. Then afterwards, I stretched, and I was talking to Sam while winding down so that I could get quality rest that I would need. On race day, Sunday morning, I woke up at 4:15 in the morning. I'm definitely an early bird. That's probably the best time to catch me because, I just feel so good about life, so optimistic and so happy in the morning, although I don't get up at that time every morning. But anyways, I showered, I got ready, then I ate half of a cinnamon raisin bagel with peanut butter, banana, and honey. And, this is a breakfast that my belly was used to, so that went well for me. I got into Philadelphia around 5:15, 5:30. I found parking on Drexel's campus, and I headed over to Center City. It was about a mile walk, so, that was a good warm-up before stretching and stuff. In the morning, I drank about 20 ounces of water. I had 20 ounces of electrolytes, and I stopped my hydration about 45 minutes before the race, so, I wasn't peeing myself on the course. And oh my God, guys, when I got to the marathon, when I tell you that you can really feel the brotherly love during Philly Marathon weekend, it's so fucking real, dude. 12,000 people signed up for the marathon with over 70,000 spectators. The energy of the other runners and the crowd, it was electric all fucking morning. I was placed in Corral D, so I had a lot of time to wait before being sent off. So, I just kept getting excited and antsed up. I was dancing. I had one caffeinated gel and an electrolyte tablet about 15 minutes before the gun went off for my corral. And when I started the race, my first mile was way too fast, strictly for vibes. And I felt great in the next few miles and made sure that I didn't go out like a madman. My breathing was fine. My legs were fine. But if you actually did want to see my race mile by mile, you can check out my Instagram or my YouTube because I did post a video of me, going mile by mile. But anyways, to stay hydrated and well-fueled throughout the race, I had, my own personal Goo Energy gels every 30 minutes for a total of 8 gels throughout the race. And I accidentally bought all caffeinated gels. This is a mistake that I made on probably every single long run that I had as well, too. So luckily I was used to it. And luckily 4 of the gels were 20 milligrams and 4 of the gels were 40 milligrams. So I rotated in between. I had an electrolyte tablet every hour during the race, and I used every hydration station en route to rotate between water and noon electrolytes. I think my race strategy really, really worked because I only had to pee at mile 5, and that was probably from all the water that I drank in the morning. But other than that, I really powered through the race. The entire time, the 3 things that I really repeated to myself were, if you're a fan of Rush Hour, then you'll like this: slow down, baby. I repeated to myself that. Thank you, Jackie Chan. What I mostly repeated to myself is the words, I am strong. That came up a lot during the race. And also, lastly, stick to the plan. That was a huge thing that I focused on before, during, and well, not so much after the race. But anyways, these all served as affirmations and reminders. This overall helped me remember my why for running and all the people that donated and supported me along this journey to get me to Philadelphia. Yes, I was running for myself, but I also knew that I was running for Active Minds and everyone who supported me. And I really can't believe how patient and kind that I was to myself during such a challenging experience for me. This is the hardest thing physically that I think that I've ever done. And when I tell you guys that I was running down bad, I mean it. I didn't just pick this podcast name for no reason. I was down bad. I felt in a good rhythm for the majority of the race, but at mile 19, I caught my first cramp in my left hamstring and calf. And if you know marathon running, then you know that this is the point in the race where it starts. This is known as the wall. Anyways, while I was cramping off to the side, a spectator asked me, "Are you okay?" Then proceeded to hand me 2 packets of mustard that saved my life. Well, they saved my life for at least the next few miles, so I was very grateful for that guy. The vibes after cramping, immaculate. This was the point of the race where we were in, the last big crowd. I didn't cramp again until end of mile 24. And at that point, my whole left leg was cramped. My ass, my hamstring, my quad, my calf. And I just figured that all of these muscles were sort of compensating for my knee and the inflammation in it. I was only 2 miles away from the finish line. The spectators and runners, were yelling at me, encouraging me to keep pushing and to stretch it out. But I couldn't stretch my leg out. I couldn't bend my knee, as much as I tried. So I did the only thing that I thought that I could control at that moment, and I smiled. I kept my smile, and I started hobbling towards the finish line with a cramped up leg that couldn't fucking bend. I was determined as fuck to get to that finish line. I knew that it was close. I knew that it was 2 miles away, so I said, "Fuck it, we ball." And somehow I pushed the pace, and it took me a couple times to say, "Fuck it, we ball," before I actually got into a rhythm and didn't experience that immense pain that I was feeling in my knee. But this, to me, was a clear example of how running can relate to our mental health, because for me, it facilitated emotional processing. I created space for these emotions that I was experiencing. I allowed for them to be there. I didn't judge them. I didn't shame myself, and I didn't guilt trip myself. And I think doing this provided me with mental clarity, because I had a break from my thoughts. I had a break from my distractions, which encouraged me to be mindful. I forced myself to be present, because my leg really fucking hurt, and that's really all I could think about at that moment. But I controlled what I thought that I could control: my smile and the way in which that I was going to carry myself and finish the race. And I think all of these things combined were able to help me kick in more of my endorphins to reduce the stress and pain that I was experiencing. That last runner's high, it was much needed at the start of mile 25, because I was out of gels. I was out of electrolyte tablets. I was fucking raw dogging these last 2 miles with no aid station, no hydration station, no nothing. I was raw dogging those last 2 miles of the race. It was so meaningful to me. I will remember it for the rest of my life, because I finished the race how I started it. My smile never left my face. However, when I got over that finish line, I did feel so fucking relieved, because one, I thought that the finish line was going to be half a mile earlier, because my Garmin clocked me in at 26.7 miles. Wasn't too happy about that. And two, because I really did that. I really fucking did that. I ran my first ever marathon in 3 hours, 34 minutes, and 2 seconds. That, to me, is a huge accomplishment. I was absolutely astonished in how I hit a sub 9 mile to close out my marathon after previously running a 13:57 at mile 25, because I couldn't bend my fucking knee. This proves to me that our mind really does go before our body. Like, we're human beings, and we are incredible. We're capable of so many things. And yeah, I missed my goal of sub 3:30 in the marathon, but I didn't lose. What the hell did I lose that day? I stayed true to myself. I gave it my all. I was kind to myself. I was patient. I did something that nobody in my bloodline has ever done before. Run 26.2 consecutive miles. I won. I was flushed with positive emotions, and I was just so unbelievably fucking proud of myself for running the marathon, for committing myself to the training and everything else involved. And, when I got out of the tent after finishing, even more positive emotions arose because I saw my friends Sam, Caleb, and Gage who came to support me. And I knew that Sam was going to be there, but I had no idea Caleb and Gage were coming to surprise me. Gage is in school now, doing his master's in architecture down in New Orleans. I had no idea that he was going to be there. So after the race, I was so grateful. I was so present because not an ounce of negativity flowed through me. Even after dropping 3 of my go-go squeezes because I felt so fucking weak after the race. And after I dropped that first go-go squeeze, another one of the finalists had handed me one of their extra ones because they saw that I dropped mine. Who the fuck does that shit? Only a marathon runner could be that nice and share their extra go-go squeeze with me after nearly running for 4 hours. Like that in itself just meant the world to me. The biggest struggle that I had after the race was not being able to walk because my knee couldn't bend. The surrounding muscles around my knee and my left leg, well, they were checked out. So I was pretty much gimping and limping around everywhere. And afterwards, I want to share that I reflected on 5 connections between the race and the mental health cause that I'm supporting. The first is that life is a marathon, not a sprint. Good things do take time. The second is that regardless of the pain that you're experiencing, you can always practice kindness to yourself and to other people around you. The third is that discomfort does not last always. Let it linger. Let it be. Don't judge it. Don't feel shame. Don't feel guilt. Let it happen. The fourth is that running is only a part of your identity. You're not defined by a time. You're not defined by your performance. The fifth is that the hardest part is starting because most people never start. And guys, I'm not even going to lie to you. This experience did change my perspective on mental health awareness and the importance of supporting struggling young adults with their mental health. I learned that just because people aren't as vocal about mental health and what they're experiencing, it doesn't mean that they don't care or think about it. So I think that at least for me, what I need to do is to continue to use my platform to push mental health awareness and advocacy. Guys, I really learned a lot about myself during this experience. The first is that I learned how capable I am and how strong I am. I can balance cross-country, grad school, marathon training, fundraising, podcasting, remaining social, and many other things. I realized how strong my love is for endurance sports. It's bigger than what I thought it was. So they might have got me, guys. And I was able to prove to myself every day of how resilient I am. And I don't necessarily need a marathon to be able to prove that to myself. And I shared this marathon journey with everybody because to me, it's a symbol of life struggles and our own inner struggles and inner war with our mental health. The start of a race is like taking the first step. Your early miles they're filled with hope, energy, adrenaline. Then you move into your middle miles where fatigue and doubt start to settle in and you kind of have to persevere through them to the point where you get to miles 18 through 20. The wall that we refer to. This wall is sort of like hitting rock bottom before you move into the final stretch where you find the strength within you to push through and finish. And the finish line, of course, is where everyone thinks the journey ends. But it's not. The finish line is where your journey continues because from there, you still have to carry that knowledge with you. Because a marathon, it isn't just a race. It's struggle, it's endurance, and it's personal growth. In a marathon, you have to pace yourself. You have to know your limits, and you have to find strength even when it seems impossible. So to me, it's not about the finish line. It's about the lessons learned and how you personally and or professionally have grown. And guys, I really wouldn't be able to do this episode justice. I wouldn't even be able to talk about running a marathon. I wouldn't be able to publish this episode without acknowledging the national nonprofit that I ran with. Active Minds. Active Minds are the ones who who invited me to run Philadelphia Marathon. They gave me a bib to be able to race and share this experience with you guys. Their mission is to raise awareness about mental health issues, provide resources and support for those that are affected by mental health conditions, and empower young people like myself to take action to address mental health challenges in their communities. They have a vision of creating a world where mental health is treated with the same importance as physical health, and where individuals feel empowered to seek help without fear of stigma or discrimination. To conclude Philadelphia Marathon, I ended up raising $1,325 with Active Minds. So in total, runners raised about $50,000 to support the nonprofit. So if you help me fundraise, thank you guys so much, because truly, I could not have done this alone. I don't have that kind of money laying around just to give to Active Minds. And if you weren't able to help out this go around, don't fret. Don't be discouraged, because you can still get involved, you can still donate, and you can still support the cause. At least for me, my work and my running with Active Minds is far from over. And I don't necessarily have a half marathon or full marathon plan for this upcoming spring, because, my plan is to lock in for my last season of track and field. But next year, I do plan to run Philadelphia Marathon again in 2025. And after that, the plan is to run a half or full marathon early in 2026, hopefully within the first 4 or 5 months. And then the big goals after that is to run Berlin Marathon in Germany of September 2026 and Philadelphia Marathon again 2 months after that in November of 2026. But I also want you guys to know that helping me fundraise is not the only way to get involved with mental health awareness and mental health advocacy, or just Active Minds in general. You can join a chapter if you're in college, or I think they also have high school chapters, and you can even advocate or start fundraising yourself. I'm personally honored to be a part of this journey with Active Minds. They've reached 8 million students across college campuses with over 600 chapters nationwide, over 4,000 events produced each year, and their campaign, Send Silence Packing, is making it to national media outlets. They're partnering with mental health organizations, foundations, and policy advocacy groups to improve mental health policies around the nation. So why would I not want to be a part of this with Active Minds? They're bringing so much change, which is much needed. But as always, guys, please share with me your experiences with running, mental health, or overcoming challenges, because I do love to hear from you guys. It does make me feel less crazy. And if you're interested in the work of Active Minds, then you can follow active_minds on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever they're on. I think that's their handle, active_minds. You can also check out their website for ways to get involved, whether that's fundraising, joining, or creating your own chapter if you don't have one at your school, joining a cohort or internship that they have at Active Minds. There's many other things. Check out the website. And to close, I just want to remind you guys that our mental health is just as important as our physical health, even though it may not seem like that. Society doesn't push that. And running can be transformative in your mental health journey, as a tool for resilience, as a facilitator of connection, whether that's internal or external with other people, and as an agent of change. So if you're not a runner and you're interested in getting into running, then maybe this is your shot to throw on some shoes and just get out the door. Running for Team Active Minds helped me grow personally, and I'm never going to forget this experience. So if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a 5-star review. It helps this episode get distributed to other people out there who might really need to hear it. Subscribe or follow the channel on whatever platform you're listening to this or viewing this on, whether that's YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. Stay connected with Down Bad for future episodes, and so you can share your feedback. Follow Down Bad on Instagram at Down Bad a Podcast. My personal Instagram and YouTube are Jodi Johnson. That's Jodi with just an I. And in my personal Instagram is my link tree where you can find all my links to everything. But as always, thank you guys for being here. Be kind to your mind, body, and the earth. And I guess I'll see you guys next time.